let's talk about the one skill that can pretty much change everything. Every relationship you have, from work to home. Today, we're going to break down the art of effective communication. Because, it's something we all do, but doing it well, that's a whole different ballgame. Okay, let me ask you something. You ever been in a conversation where you feel completely trapped? Like you're just nodding along, desperately looking for an exit, but there's no way out without being rude? Yeah, we've all been there. It's a special kind of pain, right? Or what about this one? You're listening to someone, and the whole time you're just thinking, wow, that whole 10-minute story could have been one sentence. It's so frustrating when the main point gets totally buried under a mountain of words. And now, let's get real for a second. Be honest. Have you ever been that person? The one who catches the thought and just keeps going long after you've lost the room? I think if we're all being honest, we've probably all been guilty of that at some point. All of this stuff, being held hostage, rambling on, it's what we can call the communication trap. It's this endless, frustrating cycle, and believe it or not, it has some pretty serious costs. And here's the crazy thing. These costs stack up. It starts with just wasted time, which is annoying enough, but then that drains your emotional energy. Badly chosen words create misunderstandings, and those misunderstandings, well, they can turn into resentment. And over time, that can actually damage or even destroy relationships. The stakes are way, way higher than we usually think. So if that's the trap, how do we get out of it? Well, first, we need to know what we're aiming for. We need a really clear definition of what effective communication actually is. And here's the absolute key. Communication is not just about you talking. It's about the other person actually getting it. Your message has to do three things. It has to be received, it has to be understood, and, this is the real test, it has to be so clear that the person who heard it could then turn around and share it with someone else. So think of it like 3 levels you have to climb. Level 1 is just making sure the message lands. Did they even hear it? Level 2, did they actually get what you meant? But level 3, that's the gold standard. When they can accurately explain your idea to somebody else, that's when you know you've really, truly communicated. And this is exactly why we call it an art. It's not some rigid formula you can just memorize from a textbook. It's more like a dance. You have to be in the moment, you have to read your partner, feel the rhythm of the conversation, and adjust your moves on the fly. You can't just hit play and walk away. Okay, so if it's an art, how do we get better at it? Let's walk down the path to clarity. And it starts with a choice we make every single time we decide to communicate something. We all know what indirect communication feels like, right? The cold shoulder, slamming a door, leaving someone on read for hours. It's all about sending these vague signals and just hoping the other person can read your mind. But direct communication, it's the opposite. It's a straight line. It's the fastest way from A to B, and honestly, it respects everybody's time. This quote from Einstein just nails it. The responsibility is on the speaker. If you're using a ton of jargon or you're just rambling, it doesn't mean you're smart. A lot of the time, it means you haven't really figured out the core idea yourself. True mastery is making it simple. And for anyone who's seen The Office, you know you have to avoid the Michael Scott method at all costs. He famously said, "Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way." Funny on TV, but an absolute train wreck in real life. Before you even open your mouth, just know your destination. What's the one thing you want them to walk away with? All right, so you can have all the best techniques in the world, but they'll fall totally flat if you don't have the right mindset. And that brings us to the secret ingredient for all great communication: humility. So what does humility actually look like when you're talking to someone? Well, it boils down to 2 big ideas. First, you have to accept that you could be wrong. Just that one little thought opens you up to actually listening. And second, and this one is so important, you have to remember it is not about you. It's not about you looking smart or winning an argument. It's about serving the person you're talking to. And when you mix that kind of clarity with real humility, you start to build the one thing that every single good relationship is built on: trust. So let's look at how communication can either build that trust or totally shatter it. Trust is really built on 3 layers. First, there's the what. You gotta know what you're talking about. You need to be credible. Second is the how. Your tone of voice can completely flip the meaning of your words. And that third layer, which might be the most powerful, is the who. Is the message coming from someone people have learned they can count on? And that brings us to maybe the most important point of all. Your reputation What you do speaks so much louder than what you say. If your actions don't line up with your words, your message is basically worthless. Your life is either a megaphone for your words or it's a giant mute button. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about sending a message, but we're still missing half of the entire picture. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important rule of them all. And here it is. This is so crucial. Communication is a dialogue, not a monologue. It's a two-way street. So when it's not your turn to talk, your job isn't to just sit there and plan the brilliant thing you're going to say next. Your job is to listen. To really actively listen. So when we put all these pieces together, the clarity, the humility, the trust, the listening, what do we get? What's the big payoff? Well, it takes us right back to these problems from the beginning, and it solves them. It saves you time, it saves your emotional energy, and it saves the relationships that really matter to you. Which really just leaves us with one last question. When you think about all the headaches and all the frustration that comes from just getting our wires crossed, and then you think about what you stand to gain, aren't these things worth saving?